What's up, you guys? Today we are back. We got another mobility class. Today we're going to focus on some kind of push-up recovery work. So we'll be using the muscles that tend to get fatigued when we do a lot of push-ups. So the back of the arms and the triceps. We're working on the front of the shoulders and into the chest. Some equipment that you're going to need, so you can kind of pause the video and then get this stuff as is available to you. We might have to get a little creative here. If you have a foam roller, that would be ideal. If you don't, grab something that you can, we're gonna roll out the back of our arm. Okay, so you could maybe use the handle of a dumbbell. You could use a broom handle that's elevated or something like that. But we're gonna want to be rolling back and forth across it. So just something that's round in shape, I guess, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that diameter. Okay, you'll need something. The foam roller would work for this as well, but you're gonna need something that you can lay across. So I'm gonna, at the end, we'll finish up by laying with my back on the foam roller parallel to my spine. You could just use a rolled up towel in place of that. You'll need a ball, so you could use a lacrosse ball, or you could use a bigger, like supernova, or a softball or something like that. And then just some weights. You could use soup cans if you're at home. That works just as well. All this stuff can be edited at any time, so if you guys need, or you can kind of modify on your own. So if you need to pause the video at any time, that's totally fine. Do that. We're gonna get started. We're gonna begin with some wrist stretches. So I'm gonna go palms down to the ground, and I'm just gonna rock my weight forwards and back a couple times. So I put my wrists right up close to my knees, and then I shift forwards, and then I shift back. Rock forwards, and then I rock back. Just do a couple here. In a second, we're gonna switch it up, and we're gonna point our fingers back the other way. Keep your fingers flat. Mine always want to curl up. Push them flat to the ground as much as you can. All right, let's flip our hands around so that our fingers face our knees. Elbows are locked. Rock your way forward and then sit back. Rock your way forward and then sit back. So it's important when you're doing these that you keep those elbows locked out. So if you need to stay a little bit further forward to keep that in place, that's totally fine. A few more times here. Next up, we're going to be rolling out our triceps. So before we get into anything that's too like deep stretchy, we're gonna get into just some kind of work to get the muscles moving a little bit. So I'm gonna lay on the ground, and again, you guys get creative. Use something that's gonna work for this purpose. Doesn't matter if it's a foam roller or not. I'm gonna put my arm on the foam roller, and I'm gonna start just above my elbow. Okay. All I'm gonna do is just roll in, and then roll out. So I roll to the outside of my arm, then I roll to the inside of my arm. Just rolling back and forth, just kind of getting those muscles to move a little bit. There's no real specific, precise way you need to do this. Just feel some movement there. That's what we're going for. If your triceps are tight, you will not need to put a lot of pressure on this foam roller to get them to feel something. So nice and easy, rock back and forth. And then as you go, bend and extend your arm. Okay, so you can do both. You can roll in and out as you bend and extend, but go to one side of your head, go to the other side of your head. We're just trying to get that arm to change position a little bit. Just change the way that the muscles lay as you roll forwards and back. All right, you guys, next up, we're gonna bring the foam roller up just a little bit higher. So now I'm kind of at the middle of my tricep. Whew, those are a little bit tighter. My goodness. All right, we're rolling out, we're rolling in. Do some passes with your hand. What we're doing when we bend and extend our arm is we're getting those muscles. When we extend our arm, those muscles go on tension. And then when we bend it, they relax. Okay, so we're just kind of trying to get the muscles to change, to get a little bit more limber by not just yanking on them, but by getting them to actually like contract and then relax and flex and then loosen, just like so. Might not feel so good, but it's worth the while. I know this does not feel so good for me, that's for sure. Back and forth a few more times. So we're going to spend a total of 3 minutes per side here. We're going to spend our last minute after this all the way up close to the armpit. And as we always say, mobility work does not have to be, sometimes it's excruciating and it's really painful. It does not have to be that to be productive. And I actually argue that it shouldn't be that. Let's go all the way up to just underneath our armpit. Do a few more passes here. Roll in, roll out, bend and extend at the arm. If you guys find some of this stuff, like I know it's just different from person to person, and some muscles are really tight, and it's really tough if you put a lot of pressure on them. It's tough to want to stay there and work on it, right? So be a little bit more moderate with the pressure that you put on there. If this feels like really tight and your triceps are just tender, go with just a little bit of pressure. It'll be more worth your while because you're not gonna tense up and then kind of resist the tension that we're going for. We got about 25 more seconds here. Then we're gonna switch arms. So roll in, roll out, back and forth a couple times. I think so far the mid tricep was the worst. I found the bad spot for sure for me. All right, you guys, let's switch it up. So we're gonna go back to the other arm. Now I'm on my right arm. I'm gonna start just above my elbow. So I roll out and then I roll in, back and forth a few times, just kind of scouring the bottom of that muscle. Doesn't feel what I would describe as nice. A little tight. So same thing, you can roll out and in, you can bring your hand back to alongside your head. And again, when you go to the right side of your head, your arm's in a different position, so the muscle's in a different position. When you go to the left side of your head, your arm and your muscle are in a slightly different position there. So it's beneficial to do both. A few more passes back and forth. All right, you guys, let's move it up to the mid tricep. Roll out, roll in, back and forth, nice and easy. Try rolling back and forth with your arm extended. Try rolling back and forth with your arm bent. Must be favoring my right side. My right side is much more tender than my left. My goodness. You guys will probably notice that stuff as you work on these things too, that it's not, even though we think of ourselves as, you know, a push-up is a two-sided movement, we might be a little asymmetrical when we do them. There might be little ways that we lean to one side or lean to the other. I see it in coaching. I see people do just that. They favor one side just a little bit, and rep after rep, workout after workout, that stuff can start to add up a little bit. So if you ever feel that and you're like stretching, and like for me, my right arm feels tighter than my left, maybe that's just a sign that I need to spend a couple more minutes per session working on kind of evening things out and getting some extra movement through that right side. We got 1 more minute to go. I'm going up to just underneath my armpit now. Same process. Keep moving, you guys, nice and easy. All the way to the outside of your arm, all the way to the inside of your arm. So again, we can use this foam roller for the chest opener stretch that you'll finish this thing up with. Otherwise, you can use a couple towels rolled up for that as well. We got 10 more seconds here. Next up, we're going to be laying face down on the ground. Okay, so we can just scoot the foam roller out of the way. We're just going to do a gentle chest opener stretch. So lay down to the ground. Put your right arm out to the side. Put your left hand flat like you're going to do a push-up. We're just going to roll up and over. Okay, so I'm just gently pushing with my left hand. A lot of times people's arms get way down here. Try to keep your arm up at about 90 degrees. Nice and gentle stretch here. Should not be anything intense. And let's switch. Other side. We got about 15 more seconds to go here. Try crawling your fingers up an inch closer to your head. See if that helps change the stretch at all. All right, you guys, next thing we're going to do, come on up to your knees. We're just going to do kind of the classic tricep stretch. We're going to go one arm behind. You're just going to pull that elbow back and down, nice and easy. There shouldn't be any like really yanking here. It should be a nice and easy stretch, just a simple one. So I got my left elbow. It kind of helps to lean to the right a little bit. You guys might find the same. We're switching sides in about 5 seconds. All right, you guys go ahead and switch. So now I got my left elbow up overhead. I'm going to lean. I got my right elbow with my left hand. I'm going to lean to the left. We got about 10 more seconds here, then we're gonna go to child's pose. When we're in child's pose, I want you guys to focus. Sometimes we'll just like do it really passively and you let your arms bend. This time I want you to lock your elbows out completely. All right, that'll help kind of exaggerate the stretch a little bit. So knees out wide, hips back over your heels. We got 1 minute in child's pose, elbows locked out. Think about crawling your arms, your fingers a few inches further forward. See if you can crawl your fingers 1 more inch forward. All right, you guys, next up, we're gonna take a ball. I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna roll the front of my chest and the front of my shoulder out. The front of my chest, not the back of my chest. I'm gonna roll my chest and the front of my shoulder out. So I'm just gonna kind of focus on the top of my pec. I might go to the outside of the pec, almost into the armpit. The area that you choose is up to you, but just kind of feel around for some areas that feel tight. All we're doing is laying on the ball. I'm gonna move my hand from alongside my hip to up to overhead like so, okay? The ball moves the whole time. We're gonna do 2 minutes per side. If all you have is a smaller ball and it's kind of tough to get some pressure into it, you can first start by just leaning to that side. That helps. If you still can't get enough pressure, put the ball up on a couple books. That helps. So let's go. We got 2 minutes per side here. So we're going arm up to overhead, okay? And then we're gonna go arm back to our hip. I even like to go all the way back and bring my arm on top of my back. So palm faces down when the arm's overhead, palm faces up when I get 2 on top of my back. So just changing the rotation of the shoulder as we move. Do a few passes, then move the ball an inch. Do a few passes, move the ball an inch. And just kind of take some notes. If you find that you're like, oh man, my pec muscles feel just fine. They don't feel like they're super tight. But when you roll the ball to the front of your shoulder, there's some stuff there. Just take mental note of that. And then the next time you're working on something, if you're like, oh, I got a couple minutes, I want to stretch a little bit before bed, maybe focus on some of those areas that feel like they could use the extra time. We got 30 more seconds to go, then we're switching sides. Change the ball another time, keep that thing moving. Even just rolling back and forth on the muscle is beneficial. All we're doing here is just kind of using the ball to massage into the muscle a little bit. Sometimes we stretch. You guys can switch sides. We stretch, and the muscles are so tight that they don't want to stretch, right? So we end up stretching other muscles or whatever. But sometimes doing these little, like, massage is such a crude word for this because this does not feel nice like a massage, but you get the idea. Sometimes doing these rolling techniques is a nice way to get the muscles moving again, get some blood flowing to them, get them loosened up a little bit so that when you stretch them, they're more able to move and the stretch is a little bit more effective. Nice big circles. You can go slow with your arm, change the position of the ball as you go. Roll to the outside of your pec, roll to the inside of it. Put the ball just up to underneath your collarbone, go to the front of your shoulder. Just kind of scour around, you guys. Feel for the areas that feel most tight for you. So we got less than a minute here. Once we get through with this, we're gonna go back through the same series that we did before. We're gonna spend a minute doing that chest opener, 30 seconds per side laying on the ground. After that, we're gonna do a minute in down dog, so a little different than the overhead tricep stretch, and then another minute in child's pose before we finish up on the foam roller. Another 30 seconds to go here. All right, you guys, we're gonna go out with our left arm first. So left arm out, right hand plants. Go ahead and roll up and over that left arm. Nice and easy stretch here. Again, we're looking for about 90 degrees. So picture looking down at yourself from above on your left, at your left armpit. You're trying to create a 90-degree angle or something thereabout. So maybe crawl your fingers up an inch, crawl them down an inch. Just see what position gives you the most beneficial stretch. And we can switch sides. So next up, we're going to go to down dog. It's going to give us a chance to work on opening up that overhead position, whereas we've been working a lot on opening up laterally. So now we're just going to spend a minute in down dog. Focus on the shoulder stretch a little bit more than the hamstrings, okay? You can certainly just do any movement around here that feels good, but bend and straighten your arms a little bit. Push your chest back towards your thighs. Nice and gentle stretch here. All right, y'all, next up, we're gonna go to child's pose. We got 1 minute there. Same thing as before, focus on that shoulder stretch. So crawl, lean yourself forward and then crawl those fingers out in front of you. Try to keep your arms locked out the whole time. So the last thing we're doing, you guys, we're gonna take a seat on the foam roller. If you have one that looks like this works great. If you don't, just put roll up a couple towels and put them between your shoulder blades. That will work just as well. We're looking for this pose, okay? So 90 degrees at the armpit, 90 degrees at the elbow, and we're just gonna lay and let our chest open up. We got 3 minutes here, okay? So I'm gonna lay, I'm gonna put a weight in each hand. You guys can go with the soup can, you can go with no weight at all, okay? If you have weights, lay your hands open flat, and we're just hanging out, okay? So eventually my hands will kind of come down towards the ground. When I'm starting off, I still feel kind of tight, so I'm not gonna get that low that quickly, but it should happen kind of gradually. Just try to relax. Let your chest open up nice and slowly. Focus on your breathing. Try to keep your back flat to the foam roller. Every so often, just take a look at your arms, look at your hands, see where you're at. Are your elbows at 90 degrees? Could you maybe bring your hands in a little bit? Does that change the stretch for you? Could you bring them out a little bit? Maybe you could drop your elbows down or move them up. Kind of search around and feel what position gives you the most stretch or feels the best for what we're looking for here. Just a gentle opening through the chest. We're going for about 1 more minute, you guys. See if you can change the position of your arms at all to increase the stretch or to make it feel more beneficial to you. Hopefully you can see some changes starting to happen. My hands are starting to relax down to the ground now. We're starting to near the 3-minute mark, you guys. So the way to come out of this is you don't want to do it quickly, or at least I don't want to do it quickly. So I'm going to slide the weights off my hands. Okay, so that my hands just kind of just hang out. And I'm going to extend my arms, bring them down to my sides, and then just nice and gently bring them across my chest, kind of give myself a hug, roll it out a little bit. It can be a little intense. We don't usually hang out like that for extended periods of time, so it's a good one to come out of kind of gently. Look at this mess. Look at all this stuff. You guys, that's all that I got. You did it. We all did it. That's 20 minutes. If you guys have, if this felt like excruciating for you, or if it was like something that feels like it could use some work, bookmark this one and come back to it again in a week or in a couple weeks or whatever. But thank you guys for joining me. It's always great to know that you guys are taking this stuff on with us. So continue to do so. And if you have feedback, if you're like, hey, we'd love a class where you focus on this, shoot me an email at any point. I'm always happy to help and set up what will work best for you guys. So that's all we got for today. Hope you're feeling good. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you on the next one.